Jesus is the blessing. He changed everything.
You will inherit the kingdom of my Father because you have called me Lord, and you are a follower of Jesus. Like, he came to say that. And that's what I believe.
Might disagree.
Right, the blindness.
Do not-
I didn't say I'm
do
going to
not
support
withdraw.
everything that they do, and that everything that they do is godly. Welcome back to the Kingsman Podcast. We have a very special guest today in Heath Dodgen, longtime friend, brother in Christ. Can't wait to introduce and hear his story and get some inspiration, because he's very inspirational. He's known for that around these parts. And before we do that, we're going to get to the tech talk. So watched a couple of the videos. And let's start with the one where they can make basically a movie by itself with Marvel characters or whatever. What do you think about that in AI?
Man, first off, I think they had to make a Super Dodgen, you know?
That's it. You'd be a great superhero.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. No, but, you know, for me, I feel like it's a great idea, but I can see from their perspective about how, you know, you're not going to steal our characters. Like, you can't take that. And then all of a sudden they're out there making their own little mini, you know, stories or videos and, you know, using some of their characters, but AI is crazy, isn't it?
So that was one of my questions. I know you're a businessman, business owner. What do you use AI in your business at all? Or how do you use it in life in general?
So I use, well, I guess it's ChatGPT kind of.
Oh yeah, it's AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay. So I use it all the time. I'm a mobile detailer. I do power washing. I do commercial buildings, residential homes, driveways, parking lots, patios, and I do semi-trailers and tractors, and I do fence restoration. So, you know, when you come up to certain jobs, I don't know everything. And so, you know, I was using ChatGPT, but I recently just switched over to Perplexity. So I paid like $20 for Perplexity. I just felt like the answers came back better and more intricate that I needed instead of some of the ones that came back with ChatGPT. Now, I know that I watched this deal on it recently on Dateline, and about how a lot of it is wrong. Like, a lot of it, people are messing up, you know, like AI is not completely, I guess, telling the truth, or, you know, doesn't have all the right answers.
Yeah, it's not always accurate.
Yeah, and so, you know, I get to a job, and there's sometimes, like, I didn't know when I first started, you know, what that white stuff was on bricks. And then so I took a picture of it, and I sent it in and said, what is this white stuff? And it comes back within seconds, sends me, you know, just a huge deal of, you know, how it's efflorescence and how efflorescence needs to be, how you take it off, and it's calcium and mineral deposits, and you can take it off with this acid, this E-Flow Glow, you know. So I was just like, wow, I cannot believe, you know, I can look up stuff. You know, there's different situations, even in life, just driving or whatever. You know, I talk to Perplexity all the time, or ChatGPT. I was.
See, I'll look for restaurants. I'll ask it like, hey, what's the best local restaurant? What's this food? Hey, what's the fastest way to do this? Like, I ask it. I use it all the time.
Man, I'll be honest with you. I talked to it, and I just sat there and said, one day, I said, you know what, I'm going to sit here and tell it my story. I said, you know, from the time I was born, I told it from the time I was born until today. I just sat there and talked to it, told it my story. And then afterwards, he came back and said, would you like me to write a poem of your story? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And it came back, and it was awesome. I'm not going to even lie. I pulled over, and I sent it to my mom, and I cried, and I was like, wow. I was like, it was powerful. Like, I couldn't believe what it came back with, and what it just, I'm just amazed by it. I really, really am. Like, I think AI is just it's a new thing. And I was talking to my insurance agent yesterday, a guy named Cameron Reeves, and he said, man, do you use AI for your stuff? He's like, man, ChatGPT is the way to go. And I said, I know. He goes, imagine if we had that when we were younger.
Oh,
because they're using it for tests. I mean, you can ask it, you know, what's the quadratic formula? You know, it'll spit it right
all
out.
my kids are just take pictures of their homework, and they'll plug it in, and it gives them the answer and shows them how.
Yeah, it shows them how to work it.
Oh, it shows the step-by-step process. It's incredible. Like, it does so many different things. You know, part of the thing is being scary of, like, this surveillance. So the other video that we looked at was the Ring camera, you know, that was advertised on the Super Bowls. They're paying $20 or $30 million for this commercial to tell you that they're taking the Ring that you paid for on your house that you have as a camera, that they can access it with AI, and in a whole neighborhood, compile all those together and get whatever data they want from it. Now, they say for a lost dog. I mean, I love how they act like they're going to use it for a lost dog, but what it tells you is they have control of all of that, and they're using it. Like, how is that a good advertisement? I mean, in America, like, do you want them having access to your camera?
Heck no, man. I mean, what if there's something private going on, or what if there's, that feels like an invasion of privacy.
It does. And I think that's where we're getting to the point in AI where it's just like Disney. You were talking about how they can sue for these characters, come up with a super Dodgen because then there's no patent on it, right? Not yet. But there's got to be laws, and it's moving so fast. I don't even know if the law, as slow as laws move and are written and go through Congress, can you imagine how they're going to be outdated and the whole thing's going to have already changed by the time that law got passed? It's going to be obsolete. It wouldn't matter anyway because they're going to be doing it completely different. I mean, we're in a totally different world than the one you and I
absolutely
grew up in.
Absolutely.
And it's changing fast. But, point of the podcast is to hear testimonies. And man, you are a mighty man of God, dad, businessman, wrestler, MMA fighter, coach, powerlifting champion, Olympic champion, key to the city of Amarillo. Man, just incredible story and testimony, and can't wait to kind of dive in and dig in to, man, sharing with the audience your story of who Heath Dodgen is and how he came to serve Jesus. So,
man, makes my tear up, man. Because I don't feel worthy of anything that's that great. I just feel like it's just been God's grace, like, because I've grown up just wild, but I also have always had lots of love in my heart. And I think that came from my mama. My mom's just a loving lady. And if I didn't have her, I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably, who knows where I'd be, either dead or in jail, or, she's been a great mom, man. And so I've been blessed, but yeah, my story's wild. And it's really not, it's also very normal. I grew up here in Amarillo. I was born to, Cynthia Dodgen, or Cynthia Ann Hood, and Paul Dodgen as my dad. And my dad was a 2-time state wrestling champ. So he was tough. He grew up tough. And my mom, she was a little bit more soft-hearted, they called my dad Bubba, and, sometimes he'd be a little rough. She'd be like, Bubba, you need to call, And so he didn't know love. I think I saw my dad cry 2 times in my whole life. And it was towards the end of the life. And it meant a lot to me to kind of see that, because, growing up, I remember my dad telling me, boy, don't be crying. My mom looked at me and said, Heath, no, don't you tell him that. She said, it's always okay to cry, Heath. It's always, you understand me? It's always okay to cry, son. So I'm the type of guy I'll be fighting to somebody and just crying,
Oh.
So it's just because, I don't know, there's just that heart, but there's also that grit, and
Now, were your parents married?
They were married. They were married for, matter of fact, they were separated for 20 years and never got divorced, really, And so,
oh, really?
Yeah, they just never got divorced, but they weren't together for a long time. My dad was a drug addict, and an alcoholic. And I didn't really see him drink a lot when I was growing up. My mom didn't like alcohol, so I guess she had made it very clear that, he just didn't drink around me and stuff. But every once in a while he would, but I could see the change, as he would start to, that cup or whatever he would do. And I remember telling myself growing up, and I'm never going to be like my dad. I'm never going to be like my dad. And then as I grew up, there were little things that I could tell, like, oh my God, it's kind of bad. And so I always wanted to fight that good fight and fight that change and fight addiction. And because I have an addictive personality and I'm high energy, and my energy isn't for everybody. There's a lot of people, I've even been told before, like, I went to go talk to a guy one time. He said, no, he didn't want you to go in there. He said, you're just too much for him. And I remember hearing that and thought, did he just say that? Wow, too much for him. And I was working at the bank one time, and a lady walked up to me, and I'm happy-go-lucky. It's Friday. And hey, good morning. How you doing? And she said, hey, Heath, not today. Not the happy-go-lucky, not the, uppity, Heath, not today. And I knew that wherever she was at in her life that day, luckily I was in a place where I could see that and feel that, and that I could just say, you got it. No sweat.
I've often described you as 440. So there's 120 normal outlet. I feel like I'm a
440.
I'm a 220 guy. Like, I'm pretty fired up. I'm pretty amped up, pretty out there. And then there is you. Like, dude, you're a 440. You're full throttle, full passion, full heart, and open and transparent in ways that most of us can't really relate to people and can't be. I mean, it's an openness and a rawness that we all have in us, but you're okay with like putting it out there. You know what I'm saying? So when you were young, did you hear about God? Did you go to church? Was your dad a Christian? Was your mom a Christian? What was that part?
Well, so growing up, I lived on Jackson Street. It's kind of my earliest memories of when my mind starts to recollect things that happened. And I was young, and there was this kid named Shay or something like that. He lived on Jackson, right down the street, and his family invited me to go to church with them at First Christian Church. No, not First Christian Church. Oh, that's where I went to daycare when I was younger, but Central Church of Christ.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was younger, that church was just built, and I remember seeing that roof, and I always thought about a skateboard dropping in off that roof. You know, I don't know why, because that roof was so cool. But back then, that church was so big to me. But I went with them to go to that church, and when I got home, I guess I was telling my mom about how great this place was, and so my mom was like, she's feeling guilty because she didn't take me. You know, she knew that she's like, man, my son's. So she's always said that I kind of brought her to Christ, but she started taking me to church, and then just slowly but surely, I just kept going. I think I went more for like, there's my friends, man, let's go.
Right.
And I would hear about this Jesus guy, and this whale spitting this guy out, and just these stories that just seemed so far fetched that I was just like, whatever this is, And in 7th grade, I decided to get baptized at a San Jacinto Baptist, where Howie Bass, no, not Howie, what was his name? It was, anyway, the pastor there, he moved on to somewhere else, but I went there with a buddy named Charlie Webb, and I got baptized with Charlie Webb, and then Charlie Webb and I went to Shamrock, Texas later with my mom and dad after that. But when I got baptized, I didn't really know what that meant. I just was wanting to do it. Everybody else was doing this baptism, and their friends were getting to go up that little water thing. So I was like, hey, I want to be baptized. Bring my friends up there. Let's go.
Right.
And so I remember going up there, and Charlie's brother, Brooks Webb, doing jumping jacks up there. I'm like, what is he doing? But, later in life, I believe I was with you. I was with you and Cole and everybody, and we'd driven to, starts with an F. It was, we went to.
Not Glorieta.
Not Glorieta, but the other one. Yeah.
Buena Vista.
Yeah. Is it Buena Vista? We did the not rock climbing, rappelling, and played disc golf. And we got to eat breakfast and go to these different things. It was with Trinity Fellowship.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but it was back then that I felt like I wanted to do it again. I felt like I just kind of more understood it, and I felt like it was like another chance, like another chance to be close to God, not knowing really what baptism was, just a public profession of our faith. And so, man, I have wrestled with God in so many aspects. I mean, I've had it out with God. I mean, I've closed doors and said, that's it. At times I felt like, where do I start with that? I mean, growing up.
Well, I do want to ask you a couple questions because I don't know some of these, and man, I've known you, but I don't know every detail. I got some questions I wanted to know. I remember you getting baptized there at that men's retreat. I remember you ripping it off. You were Heath, man. You're full energy, super happy, like just joyous. And one of the things did you hear God's voice when you for other people that are wondering what's it like? They've heard of this Jesus, they know this, they're around it, or maybe they haven't been around it a lot. What was your emotions like when you're praising and worshiping? Do you get filled with the Holy Spirit? Like, what was your connection to God that made you be like, like what drew you to him?
Oh man, it's weird. It almost makes me tear up because, there's like those songs, those things like, God, he'll reach out for me and come and get me. Like, so for me, it was, I'll be brutally honest, it was hanging out with people like you and Cole and other people that I saw were so here, not here, and I wanted that. I wanted to have that peace. I didn't have peace. There's just no peace, the other way. It's chaos in your mind. It's chaos everywhere else, and it feels like your life's just, in disarray and disorder. And I've never been good with organization really, but I'm really organized within my unorganization. I know
Right.
where everything's
You
at,
know where
but-
everything's at.
But it was about just I just wanted to be kind of like that guy over there. He's just a good guy. There's some men that I looked up to, and those men that I looked up to and people I look up to, they followed this God and this Jesus. And I remember years ago, I talked to a gentleman at Doug's Barbecue, and he said, these people tell you, God talked to me, and God, he said, God doesn't talk to you. You don't hear the audible voice. And I thought, I don't hear the audible voice either.
Mhm.
As I became a Christian and as things started to roll around, I went to Trinity Fellowship. I went with Cole and Shiloh, I believe, and my ex-wife at the time. And I just wanted some peace in my marriage and in my life. And so we started going to Trinity Fellowship. And I remember the first time I asked Cole and them, they asked me to come into a married life group that we went to. And there's a lot of great people there. But I remember going there with everybody, and I felt so out of place. Like everybody had their stuff together but me, but I just kept walking right into it. Just as uncomfortable it was, I just kept going. And my wife wasn't even going at the time. I was going by myself, remember? And so people like that just started to touch my heart. So I started to try to, just follow God, and talk to this thing in air. Felt like I was talking to myself. And later, I was drinking. I was drinking and drugging, and I wanted to quit. And I went to quit drinking again. Try to stop drinking again. And I was 3 days in, and I went to a house with my buddy, and he's like, I'm doing good. And I was so happy about 3 days in. And my buddy's like, hey, take a shot. And it's like, it's a big old glass of liquor. It's like 6 shots. I was like, dude, no, that's not a shot. Come on. And he's like, no, come on. He's like, dude, it's been 3 days. And I was like, yeah, but it's been 3 days, And I remember it's like, I just gave in and I took it. And I remember the guilt. I was feeling so guilty. Next thing you know, I'm in the backyard smoking weed, and I'm just like inside, I'm just dying. Really, I really was. And he goes, hey, my buddy Garrett George is coming over. And golly, it makes me want to start crying because it's just this is a powerful story. So he said, hey, my buddy Garrett George is coming over. He goes, tell him I'm in the back when he gets here. And I'd never met this guy, Garrett George. This guy walks in with a bald head, and he's outgoing. He's got it together. I said, hey, how you doing, Garrett? He said, hey, Garrett George. He always says his first last name. He shakes my hand. I said, hey, good to meet you, man. I said, hey, you want one of these? And it was a shot. And he goes, no, but I'll take one of those. And he snapped. I'll take one of those. And it was a bottle of water. And I thought, that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to take the bottle of water. I was supposed to come in and tell him, but I'll take one of those,
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. And I gave him that bottle of water, not knowing it was some other girl's water. Just gave it up to him. It's what he wanted. And so I had to go get that water. But I came back, and Garrett said, hey, y'all want to go downtown or something? I'll drive. And I thought, who goes to go to the bar and doesn't drink? Not many people I ever went to the bar with didn't drink, So I thought, who wants to go do that? And so I started asking him in the front seat, hey, now you're going downtown, you don't drink? And he said, no, man, listen, I'm in this men's group. And he said, and we all quit something for 90 days. It was right after the first year. And he said, I quit drinking. One guy, he quit snuffing, and another guy quit drinking Dr. Pepper. And so and I thought, what kind of group is this?
Right.
And so it intrigued me. And then later that night, as I kept going, I asked him, I just briefly said, hey, can I get involved in that group that you're in? Because I thought, well, if they're quitting something for 9 days, I'll just go get in that group with them, and I'll quit drinking with them. And then I'll have a purpose. I'll have a reason to tell somebody, no, I'm in this group. I can't. We're all hold each other accountable, right? And so I asked him, and I didn't know that the group had just multiplied, but they call it multiplied instead of divide. But they multiplied, and Garrett was scared for more people to come into that group, and I didn't know about that time because he didn't want them to have to multiply again. They drew names in a hat, and he actually drew the guy's name's house that they were at. Brian Mashburn, senior pastor at a Southwest Church of Christ, unbelievable guy. And Brian said, bring Heath. He said, oh, man, if there's gonna be more people when we multiply. He said, Garrett, that's not what this is about. So Garrett asked me if I want to go. It was every Tuesday from 8:30 to 10:30. I thought, man, it's a long time. That's what I thought to myself. Well, I go into this house. I go to this house and go in. I start meeting these people. And now at first I didn't know the guy was a senior pastor or anything, and just start meeting people. And my name's Brian Mashburn. What do you do for a living? He goes, well, I'm a senior pastor at Southwest Church. And I thought, what? Like, well, yeah. So we go downstairs, and lo and behold, Brian's the one that quit drinking Dr. Pepper. But I loved how he put it in. He said, he never drank alcohol or did drugs. So for him, that Dr. Pepper was that craving, that I gotta have another one, man. I want it, and it's good. And so for him, it was the same thing, And And so I get in this group, and I made it 80 days, 88 days, something like that. I didn't make the 90, and I'm right there at it. And every Tuesday we would come around and say, so Trent, how you doing today? And so you'd tell us. And it got, and I went that Tuesday, I was going to lie. And so this group is deep. This isn't just a men's group. This is a place where we go down in the basement. We call ourselves the Basement Boys, and we take the mask off and we get real.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because it's easy to lie. It's easy to tell the big, just go ahead and we had a hot seat. We had this yellow chair and we had a hot seat. So if it was your turn to be in the hot seat, if it's your very first turn, just tell us your story. We'd bring Dr. Peppers, whatever, little snacks, and you just tell us your story from the time you were born until now. And nearly everybody that's there, they know why they're there. They know that what we're there to do. We're there to change lives. We're there. Our goal was to be more like Jesus. We would try to live off John 10:10. The enemy comes only to kill, steal, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And so our goal was to just try to be more like Jesus, whatever that is. Take the mask off, get real with our issues, our problems, take them off down in the basement. And because up there it's real easy to be fake, but down there it was hard. We was taking that mask off, and if it was your second time on the hot seat, your goal was to bring it, but bring it in a way that brought everybody else in. Like if you had an issue or you had something going on, and you felt like you needed some help talking about it, and then you could people chime in and maybe help or whatever it was, whatever you want to do when it's your turn on the hot seat. I did some cool things, and man, I did that for nearly 15 years. I did it for a long time. Like it just kept going. Like it's like I needed to go. Like I had to go there. And if I didn't go, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't getting the stuff that I needed. And that is what helped me to be open, because that's what helped me to hold myself accountable, especially when I quit drinking. 5 years ago, I decided, and I've been quitting drinking for a long time, and I quit drinking for a year, and it's 14 months. And so my 40th birthday, my ex-girlfriend, she had a surprise party for me, and my buddy Cole Stanley was there and everybody. And,
Yep.
and so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna have some drinks tonight. I'm 40 years old. I can have some drinks. I only quit for a year just for me. It wasn't for anybody else, So I was like, I can do that. And everyone's like, no, Heath, no. And I thought, no, I'll just quit next week. Like I'll just quit. I'll just drink today and I'll be done. I've done it for 14 months, easy. And then the next weekend came and I was like, I didn't drink with Trent, so I'm gonna go drink. And so next, 9 months later, I was full blown getting it, and I never drank Sunday through Thursday. I just didn't. I always had school or work, but I made up for it on Friday and Saturday nights. I binge drink. And so, and then I caught myself later just, and it hates to admit it, but it's holding me accountable. It's like, I would catch myself snorting cocaine, and then I'd go buy a gram of Coke. I'd break it up into 2 lines and snort half of it in one. And just, and everything I do, like you say, is kind of overboard. It's kind of too much. And so my ex-girlfriend used to tell me I was imbalanced. I needed balance.
Yeah.
I was all or nothing.
You were.
I'm all or
you
nothing.
You are.
And I am. And I think that there's goodness to that. And there can be a downfall to that. And I get that. And but there's also a lot of goodness to that too.
There really is.
Yeah. And I thought there was. But I was led to believe that it wasn't good. And so I kept feeling like I needed balance. I needed to calm down. I needed to not be so energetic around these people because people couldn't take my energy. And so, it caused me to kind of look within myself. And anyway, the basement changed my life. It changed so many things about me. One time, this guy, Brian, I asked him, I said, Brian, just tell me what to do every day. I don't know what to do. I'm so sick of failing. Like, just tell me what to do when I wake up. 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Let's come up with my day, and let's talk about like what I can do to be better. I'm so sick of failing. I was just so sick of failing. And he said, you know what, Heath? And I love this. He said, I do. I love this. He said, you know why? Because I pay a trainer, and the trainer, he tells me what to eat. He tells me what to work out. And if I do those things, my body changes and I see change. And so I know exactly what you mean, Heath, but listen. And he always carried a Bible in his back pocket. Reaches in his back pocket, pulls it out. He says, but Heath, I can't always tell you what to do. All I can tell you to do is be more like Christ on the fly. And that's where it all started, with the cross on the fly. I was like, wow.
Oh.
So he told me I need to be more like Christ on the fly. And I knew what on the fly meant because I worked at a restaurant. One time they dropped a sirloin on the steak. And, hey, we need an 8-ounce sirloin on the fly. And it meant right now, kind of like, what would Jesus do? But it was Christ on the fly. It was something else as opposed to what would Jesus do? It was like, learn to be more like Christ on the fly. And I thought, wow, it was a metaphor. And for me, it was, because I was talking to Garrett George. I was going to my first professional MMA fight, and I wanted to come up with some shirts. We were talking about what if Jesus was a fly, was on a fly, and he's listening to all the stuff we say, and he's just always there, you know. And I had this vision of Jesus flying around on this fly, you know, and in my head, all of a sudden, I like, it's like this light bulb thing went off. And it was like this fly that was kind of broken up, you know, but on its back was a cross, kind of like Jesus flying on it. And I just had that vision. And I went to this place for a t-shirt. It's called the t-shirt place on Polk Street. And I told the lady, Carrie, hey, I've got this vision. Can you like, if I tell you like what it is, can you like put it on paper? And she said, you know, I've got this guy that he puts all of our stuff together. If I have something like this, let me call him to see if he's around. She calls me and said, he's about 10 minutes away. He said he'll stop by right now. And I was like, oh, awesome. So I waited there. He showed up, and I told him what I was talking about, this broken up fly with a cross on his back and kind of crossing the fly how it came from. And I was going to have boxing gloves and shin pads. I did crossing the fly fight wear.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I think that's what I put, crossing the fly fight wear on my first fight shirt. But the guy told me, I told him what it was. He goes, you know, I'm getting an idea of what you're kind of talking about. Let me go home and let me get on my computer. Let me get on this a little software I have and see if I can't come up with something. I'll email you and see what you think. He emailed me about an hour later, and it was it wasn't even, I was just like, that's it. It's this broken up white fly, and it looked like things were kind of dissipating, and then all of a sudden there's a cross on the back, and I thought, that's it. Crossed on the fly. So that's kind of how it was born. And later I got a big tattoo from a guy named Chad Smith that I did jiu-jitsu with, who's now a black belt. And he did it for me. When he walked out to do the fly, you know, I'm thinking I was going to do something about like that. Just, you know, not too big. You know, I thought I was going to do it on my side, just something kind of up here. And Chad goes back there, he's drawing it up, and he comes out and he said, you don't really want to do the broken up fly, kind of broken up, because later as you get older, your skin, and he said, it'll kind of look weird. He said, but we'll do the fly. I said, but this is what I came up with. And he turns it around, and it's a fly about this big. And it's my whole side. And I was like, and at the time I thought, well, you know, I see a lot of girls getting, you know, tattoos. It must not be that hard anymore. Oh my gosh. I sat there for like 5 or 6. I got there at 5 o'clock and left at midnight. We took about an hour break. Oh man, I tell you what, it was that line, you know. And I remember at first I was just flexing, just taking it, man. And I wasn't really utilizing God to go through what I was. And I remember Chad saying, hey, listen. And I was doing yoga at the time because I'd hurt my back. And he said, I want you to breathe. Take a big deep breath in. I'm going to make, and I'm going to hit the skin. And I want you to just breathe. So instead of flexing for 2.5 hours, which I was exhausted after 2.5 hours of flexing every time he'd hit the skin, I just flex. Yeah. I just breathe. And he'd hit the skin, and I just breathe. I just start thinking about God, why I'm doing this, and what's the reason, and it started to like get me into this zone, and so that's kind of how the cross on the fly started on my side. And recently, I'd made these stickers. I say recently, gosh, time goes fast. My 18-year-old son, he passed away September 13th, 2020, Caden Taylor Dodgen. And so the night before he passed away, he said, he called me from I was at a wedding, and he called me, and we can go into that story. And he said, dude, Dad, God is real. And I was like, my son he wouldn't talk about God. I baptized him when he was younger. And it was ever since then, I don't know if it was me or what. I just know that anytime I would try to talk about God or something to him, he would just immediately tune me out and say, Dad, I don't believe. I just don't, And so I realized that forcing it upon and trying to, always make him to, was actually pushing him away. And so I thought, I'm just going to learn to be more like Jesus, just like I've been in the group. Like I'm just going to be kind, be loving, be truthful, just love him right where he's at and all his wounds and all his hurts. And just like I want to be loved, And so, Caden called me the night before, and I was at this wedding, and he said, dude, Dad, God is real. And we hadn't talked in 6 weeks. So the whole thing, we'll talk about that. He just called me, and I hadn't talked to him so long. He said, dude, Dad, God is real. And I'm sitting at this table with some friends. Did my son just say, Dad, God is real? I was like, this is happening. I'm like, so I stand up and I say, hold on, son. Whoa, hold on. And I go into the bathroom because it's quieter. And I said, say that again, son. What did you just say? He said, dude, Dad, God is real. And I was like, I got to hear the story, man. What is going on? And he said, Dad, you'll never believe it. He was delivering pizzas at the time, Pizza Hut. He said, Dad, I was delivering these pizzas and I saw 2 homeless people. And I pulled over and I gave each one of them $5. He said, so I went on to go deliver the pizza, Dad. And the lady ordered $40 worth of pizza, Dad. And when I get there, she gives me a $100 bill and she tells me to keep the change. Dad, God is real. And I was like, I just love how for that split moment, that's where he was at with God. Like it was his little, and it was the night before he passed away. Like that's not ironic. That's not, for me, there was something totally in that. Like it was just, and it was almost for me now that he's gone, it was almost like, I don't know. I've had 3 friends since then get that tattooed because of that, and then I haven't, but it was so powerful. It was just so powerful. And, I spoke at his funeral and I remember Brian Mashburn spoke too. And he spoke about that, about how that was him and God's little way of talking, just a little way of right then of what he did. It was some way that God was able to get in all those years of me saying, God, just please put somebody in his life because I can't do it. It takes a village to raise a child, as you know. And I said, please, God, just put somebody. And so whatever it was, for whatever reason, that's what happened the night before. And it was powerful when I got to see Caden that night, and so lo and behold, that sticker came out later. I put God is real. I did the cross and the fly. I made this little red oval. I pulled that into the, cause my tattoo, when we did it, Chad said, hey, I want you to come back in 2 weeks and we're going to put red. I want to put red for the cross. And I said, okay. He said, I want to do that for the blood of Christ.
Oh yeah.
He said, I've never got to do a tattoo like that. I've never even done a fly, Heath. He said, I've done tattoos for years. He said, so thank you. He's like, but I've never done anything like this. He's like, so I want this to be special. So we came back 2 weeks later and made the red because he said he wanted it to pop. And so I drug this red oval into, because I was trying to make this thing myself. I didn't know how to make a sticker. So I took a picture of my shirt and then I took out the background of it. And now it's just a white screen. I thought, oh, it didn't work. And then I hit something like made it black, the background, and all of a sudden, bam, the white fly showed up. I was like, whoa, oh, there it is. No way. And so I got this red oval. I drug it in and that's where I got the red on the deal. And then I pulled Caden's words in and I decided to kind of curve them around it. And it just, I loved it. I was like, wow, that's it. This is it. Like I stick them all over Amarillo. I mean, I bought about 600 last time. The time before that, about 300, and they're almost all gone. I give them out. I've sold them. Because I have a purpose with them. I've saved money with that money to do something later. I really want to do some clothing and things like that. Just want to get it out more. I don't know. Just want to create Caden's
kind of like your ministry and a way to. How do you look at, man? Because part of it is, failure and starting over. And man, you've reinvented yourself in the last 5 years. I know it dramatically changed your trajectory, and you really have reset and refocused on God and really accomplished amazing things in these 5 years. So walk me through that.
So my son Caden Heath Dodgen was born March 18th, 2002, BSA Hospital. Man, this kid was awesome. You got to meet Caden.
Oh yeah.
He was such a good kid. I mean, he made me look good. He everywhere he went, he was so respectful. Yes, ma'am, no ma'am. And I didn't get on to him too much to tell him, those things. And he wanted to be like Dad, I think. And growing up, even I've worked at Blue Beacon. He said, Dad, when I grow up, I want to work at Blue Beacon like you. I said, no, son, you're going to do something better. You're going to do some way better things than Dad did. I said, man, son, you're going to do way better things. But him and his mom and I, just couldn't seem to get along, man. And we grew up together since 5th grade and man, we were best friends. And so unfortunately we parted ways later and that put Caden through, some turmoil. I don't want to say any bad things about their marriage and stuff, but it wasn't good. Obviously, there's a reason you get divorced, and she was a great mom. She was an amazing mom to our son, and so I couldn't have asked for a better mom for my child. And sorry, that makes me cry. That's difficult, very difficult. So Caden was in this turmoil of, and I'll speak for myself. I used to talk crap on her, try to make him love me more, and and it's a horrible thing that we as parents that are getting divorced do. We use that child as this leverage to hurt the other person, and I don't know why people do this. I really don't. You know, there are good dads and good moms out there that they still love their kid, whether they treat you bad or not. They still love the child, and they're a great parent. And so, you know, I wish people just didn't do that. Those things have to stop. You know, and it creates turmoil for the child. The child in the end is what gets it. And so he felt torn. He's torn, man. He didn't. You know, he comes over to my house. He's all about, you know, being on my team and my side, and you know, goes back the other way and feels. So then I feel like against me, you know, and then, you know, and so, and when he was 16 years old, I brought him in and I said, Caden, I need to be truthful with you. Luckily, I'd been in the men's group, you know, take the mask off and get real. Here we go. I said, you know, all those times that I talk crap on your mom, I said, man, it's my fault. I did that because I want you to love me more. I wanted you to like me more. I wanted you to, you know, and I said, and I don't want that. I said, Caden, your mom's a good mom. She loves you. She obviously, you know that. And I said, I'm no longer going to talk crap on your mom. I'm just not. I'm not going to do it. I said, as hard as I want to sometimes, I'm not going to do it, kid. And I want to apologize to you as a dad. I said, I should have never done that. I did it to influence, and I just kind of came clean with why I did it, you know. And there was a sigh of almost relief of like letting that stuff go. It's weird. And he said, thank you. And we'd gone on. We moved on from that. And Lee and I we would slowly get along, you know, and then we wouldn't. And then Caden was in high school and he was struggling with friends. He always wanted to hang out with friends like dad. He always wanted to have all these friends, but when he was younger, he was an only child. So I didn't have my little girl yet. And when I did have her, I only had her, you know, every other weekend, and I tried to have them together, and they didn't have a lot of time together. So it still kind of probably felt like only child syndrome.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have the friends, and so all of a sudden he wanted to hang out with friends when he got friends in high school. Man, you didn't see him anymore. He was gone. He was all hanging out with friends, and then, you know, I think things just got to him, and I was the more no, you're not gonna, you know. And one time he got caught vaping, and he got kicked off the wrestling team, and that was difficult for me and for him. I know at times I was told that, you know, he wrestled because I wanted him to, but I could see it in him. I could see it in him in high school, whether I wanted to or not. I know that even if it was me that just wanted him to wrestle, I wanted that for a reason. Wrestling is like no other sport in the world. I grew up wrestling. My dad was a 2-time state champ. My uncle was undefeated his senior year of high school. My cousins are national champs. One of them's a 3-time national champ, you know, and
the Dodgen name is known for wrestling.
Absolutely. And those guys are tough, you know, and we are. It just, I don't know, it was just in us. It was born and bred. I don't know. And so I wanted Caden to wrestle for a reason. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I knew that wrestling is hard. It's discipline. It takes a lot to do it. It's not an easy sport. That's why there's only certain people that do it. There's only certain people that can make it. So, but he got kicked off, and I remember it hurt. It hurt him. It hurt me. But at the time, his mom said, Heath, I can't do it. I can't. Obviously, he's not listening to me. So he's going to stay with you. And I was like, wow, he's going to live with me like all the time. Wow. So we sat him down. We talked with him, and lo and behold, he come to live with me, and I told him how it was going to be, like the rules and stuff like that. I said, we're not going to be hard, you know, you just follow them. We're good. Just follow, you know. And he did, man, he did just amazing. I was so proud of him. Oh my gosh. Like he stepped it up, and he started going, I'd take him to school. He'd always have his stuff ready. We'd get up. He was always nice in the morning. We never argued. It was the best time. It was like 3 months of just me and Taterbug. I called him Taterbug. He was my Taterbug. And it was just us. It was awesome, dude. It was so fun. And then he came to me one day, and I knew that things were getting better, and I worried about it. But again, you got to let him go, you know. And he said, "Can I go back to live with mom?" And I was like, "Ooh," I was like, you know, just, you know, okay, I'm gonna have to leave that. Let me think on it. And I later thought, like, you know, you can't just hold him forever. He's done very good. There's a reason. So, you know, of course, you let him go. You gotta let him fly. You gotta let him jump off that limb. And
hey, man, you gotta be a man. You gotta let him go.
You do, and that's difficult as a parent, man. I can see why my mom had a difficult time letting me go.
Yeah,
you know. And so he goes back, and then things kind of slowly start to go back to where he was at, hiding things, and he was drinking, and even at the age of 17, he did some cocaine, and I knew he did. And that's when my buddy had called me 2 weeks before he passed away and said, "Hey, Dodgen, I just want to tell you that right now, it's my buddy Caleb. And here at school, my son came home and told me, he said, it's kind of bad. He said, people were talking about Caden doing cocaine? I said, yeah, well, it's true. I said, and I had no room to talk, and so I was like, yeah. I said, we're working through it. Just have to, pray for him. I was like, I don't, I'm doing my best. I go to the house to get him. I'm, beating on he's staying at these people's house where their parents were there. And I'm like, and they wouldn't even answer the door. I mean, I'm banging on windows and doors. They wouldn't even answer the door. And I thought, man, whose house is this? So I ended up taking his car while he was there. I'd take his car and we, take it so he couldn't drive off and just be in the car anymore. Just had to have some kind of start with some kind of discipline. Well, 2 weeks before, that's when Caleb called me. So I thought I got to go talk to Caden. I hadn't talked to Caden. He wouldn't answer my calls for like 6 weeks. And because again, I was kind of the disciplinary one, and don't listen to your dad kind of thing. And he's just in that place. And so I drove up to Pizza Hut and I said, is Caden here? She said, you know what? No, he's on a delivery. And I said, well, I'm his dad. I just need to talk to him real quick. And she said, well, he's coming back here. He'll be back any second. If you just want to wait in the back, I said, okay, sweet. So I wait there and he pulls up and he gets out. And I knew right away he was on something. Did something. You just know your child. And I said, Caden, what do you want? What's going on? What is going on? I said, let me tell you what just happened. And I told him about the phone call and you're driving around. He doesn't look like her. And he said, your dad. And we just both immediately started crying. Like we just started bawling. And I said, what do you want me to do, son? Do you want me to bury you? I said, I don't want to. I do not want to do that, son, but I will if I have to. If I had to do something like that, I would. I respect you. I love you that much, son. And he said, I can't talk like this right now, Dad. And he went inside. And 2 weeks later, on a Thursday, Leah called me, and he was pretty messed up. And she said, Caden's messed up. Here, talk to him. And she gave him the phone, and he couldn't even talk. He was just, hey, Dad, oh, hey. And I just immediately started crying and was like, what is going on with you, son? And so she gave the phone to her. He got mad at me. I'm talking, and he gives the phone to her. I said, what? And she's crying. She's like, Heath, I'm going to make him stay awake. I'm going to stay with him. And her to say that I'm going to stay up, make him stay awake. I never once thought of twice like why she did that, or I still never even asked her. But thank God she did then at that time, because I would rather it have been me that went through that at that time than her to see that, I guess, just to cover her heart, just for her heart. And so that was a Thursday, and I went into work that morning, and I went into my boss and even said, hey, listen, can I sit down and talk to you? I'm not trying to get out of work. I need someone to talk to about this. I really do. And her husband was a police officer. I just kind of told her what I just went on with the phone conversation on the way to work, and it was on my way to work. And so Friday came, and then Saturday morning I go do CrossFit at Powder CrossFit every Saturday. And or I did that morning. I did that day. And I don't usually go Saturday. That's what's even odd. I usually went Sundays for the Sunday fun day. And I was leaving, and Caden called me and said, hey, Dad, what are you doing? You want to go to lunch? And I'm like, what? Yeah, I'll be right there. I said, oh my God, I'll be right there, son. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to I-27. He lives off I-27, and I'm not even going to give him a chance. So I just drive straight there and pull up. And he calls me, hey, Dad, I'm out of the shower. I said, hey, I'm sitting out front. I was like, go ahead, just whenever you're ready. So he comes out. Second he comes out, man, he's looking about almost taller than me. And I was like, golly. So he comes out, and I get him in a headlock, and I kiss him on the head. And I said, your dad, you're not too old for your dad to kiss you, right? And he laughed. And as I'd walked by his car on the way to go up to him, I looked in his car, and I saw some beer cans. Shouldn't have those. So I said, hey, Caden, you already know that I know what's going, so listen, I saw the beer cans and stuff in the back. You got to go throw those away. I said, man, if you get pulled over, you're going to get an open container. I said, man, because I'd had one. And so we drive around the back, and we're throwing out the beer cans and the beer. And I'm like, man, he said, Dad, I'm not going to do this stuff anymore. I'm kind of sick of this thing, I'm going to get away from the friends. He starts telling me about the friends he's wanting to get away, and I found this little green pills. And I knew what it was, but I didn't like pills, but I knew what it was. It was a Xanax. It was a quad bar, and it was green. It was like 4 little squares. Kate, look at that. He goes, where'd you find that? It's in the back. She goes, really? Yeah, and I threw it in the trash. You don't need that anymore. And we left. We were going to go eat. And I just talked to my dad 2 weeks before. Found my dad, I say, because I hadn't seen my dad in years, 2 years. I went looking for him. Like 2 weeks before, we went looking for him. My cousin told me about where he lived, and I went and found my dad and knocked on one door, and there was duplexes, and asked the guy at apartment A, Paul Dodgen? He said, no, not at all. He said, why? And I said, that's my dad. He goes, oh, that's your dad? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, he lives right there. It's right there in B. And I said, right here? He said, yeah, no way. So I knocked on it. My dad opens the door. So I wanted Caden to see my dad. I wanted him to see what drugs could do to you, if he kept the same So I say, let's go see my dad. Just want you to see what drugs can do later, kid. Just so you understand. You know, and I want you to see my dad. You haven't seen him in years. You know, probably. So we go in there. We're talking to my dad. My dad's like, you know, you ought to come over for Super Bowl. We'll watch TV. He said, we put those all I got's rabbit ears. And I said, Caden, you know what rabbit ears are? He's like, he didn't know what rabbit ears
Oh,
are.
yeah.
He didn't know what an antenna was. You
Right.
know? And Caden said, Dad, I've got a smart TV at home. I'll give it to him. My dad said, what's a smart TV? He said, well, it's got these apps. My dad's like, wow, that's cool. And then later he said, well, Heath, give me a call. He said, I've got this little pay phone, this little, Go phone. And he said, Dad, I've got an iPhone at home, an extra one. I'll give it to him. And I was like, dude, bro, I just love you. And he goes, hey, Bubba, can I use the bathroom? He goes to the bathroom. My dad looks at me and said, hey, Heath, who is that? And I said, dude, that's your grandson. That's my son, Caden. And he's like, oh, that's right. I knew that. And I was like, so then Caden's walking out by the time I'm really irritated with my dad. I'm like, gosh, now I'm like, okay, love him right where he's at. All his wounds and all his hurts. He doesn't know. He's scared of life. And you get to be that for him. So stay calm. Caden came out and we tell my dad, bye, I love you, Dad. It's good to see you. We leave, we get in the car and Caden starts crying. He said, Dad, that really hurt my feelings. So I told him, I said, Caden, when you went to the bathroom, my dad had asked where. I said, and that's sad. Caden, it hurt Caden's feelings. That really hurts my feelings. He said, I said, well, Caden, you have to understand where he's at. This is why I wanted you to meet him. Like, this is mine.
This is what it does.
Yeah. So we go to Taco Bell. He orders 2 bean burritos, add extra cheese, plain. And he got that all the time. That's what he got. 2 bean burritos, add extra cheese, plain. No hot sauce. And we go home. I take him home. I go to the deal, and I'm going to go to a wedding. And he calls me, and him and his mom are in a huge fight. I mean, they're at each other's throat. Can I come over? I want to come over right now. And so I hate that for her. It broke my heart. But he comes to my house, and we talk. And I'll never forget what he said. It kind of changed my heart with how God was. He said, dude, Dad, you always love me no matter what. He said, I haven't talked to you in how long. I've avoided, and and he said, Dad, and he started crying. He said, I love you. He said, you just always have loved me. Like, no matter what I've done, you've always loved me. And I just was like, I'm so glad that he got to see just a piece of that, because I did. And I told him, I said, Kate, I love you no matter what you've done in this world. Don't matter what you've done. So if you killed somebody, would I want you? I said, no. I said, but I'll love you. I said, I'll be disappointed, but I'll love you. I said, Kate, I'll always love you for the rest of my life, to my last breath. And he said, well, I'm going to go to work, at 5. I said, well, I got to go to the wedding. And so he goes to work, and he said, maybe later we need some pizza. I'm like, heck yeah, maybe some pineapple on it, just playing around.
Yeah.
And so he calls me later and says, hey, Dad, I wasn't able to get that. And that's what he calls me when I'm at the wedding, and says, dude, Dad, God is real. So then that, so that's when the whole God is real thing came about. And I got off work. I got out of the wedding. I drive home, and Caden was running late. He used to get off at 11, but he was running late. And he said, Dad, I'm going to go by Whataburger. And I had driven by that Whataburger he talked about, and I saw the line. It was way out. And I was like, I'm not going to wait in that line. And he said, I'm going to go to Whataburger. Well, he ended up texting my mom, and my mom said, oh, Heath, he's not going to go to Whataburger. He's going to go to Wendy's across the street. And so we didn't look at this till later, but there's a 20 minute time difference of like when he left and when he texted her and stuff. And so I'm thinking that maybe when he went to go get something, maybe he went to go get this pill or something. I don't know. We just tried to put it together. But he comes home and he's got some Wendy's, and I didn't need Wendy's. And so him and my mom were eating some Wendy's, and we're talking about going skiing. And he's like, now he's working at Pizza Hut, man. He's making the big bucks. And he's like, hey, Dad, I'll take us skiing. We'll go skiing. I'll pay for it, Dad. I just loved it, dude. I was like, oh, Katie, you don't have to do that. And we always wanted to ski together. I took him when he was really younger, but I wanted to ski with him now. He's a little older. And I thought it was so awesome. He's like, Dad, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I just loved that. And we're talking, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he nods. Head pops back up. And the only reason that I knew about that was because back in the day, I had some friends that took Oxycontin, and I didn't know what that was, but they said it was an opiate, like a real strong,
super strong.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like for people on a deathbed. And I did not like the way that they looked. Like they were all, and falling asleep and throwing out, and that wasn't for me. I never tried that stuff. But I knew that nodding stuff. They used to call it nodding, and people would get mad. They nod, and you go, "Oh, you just fell asleep," and they'd be like, "No, I didn't." No, they get up like hurt, and so Caden did that. And I said, whoa, hey, son, what did you take? And he said, nothing, Dad. I said, Caden, what's going on? What did you take? And my mom was sitting next to him. And so that was putting him in a place. And I didn't want to, and I started realizing I'm putting him in this place of him and her. And so he said, Dad, I'm just tired. He shook his head like, and I was like, okay, yeah, my bad. She didn't see him nod. She's sitting next to him. And so, I wasn't going to say anything. Didn't want to expose him to her and just the whole thing. His mom had gotten an argument. I just wanted to be loved. And he said, Dad, I said, well, it's getting late. It's about, 12:15. I said, we need to get to bed, Caden. Let's get to bed. I got to go to church in the morning. You got to work. And he said, okay. And we're walking to the bedroom, and he said, we got to go play basketball sometime, Dad. I said, shoot, if you want to get beat. So now we're playing air basketball in the kitchen. I'm going between the legs. We're faking it. He's acting like he's going to, I go up to shoot, and he blasted away,
Yeah.
We laughed so hard about it. And then we turned the corner, and that's when I said, Caden, what'd you take? He said, nothing, Dad. Hey, just be honest. He said, I'm tired. I said, oh, you're tired? Check this out. Get in the bathroom. I get my eyes real close to the mirror. And I said, I got up this morning to CrossFit, and I stayed up kind of late. I did, went to this wedding. I said, look, it's 12:30. I said, look, let me show you what tired is. And I go, tired. Look at you. And his eyes were, the whites were white. Like the white was white. Usually when someone's messed up, the white's kind of red. Well, the white was white, but it was the circles, the darkness he had all around the skin area was like real dark and affected, it looked like. And I was like, just didn't look right. So I say, look at your eyes. So he gets in the mirror and he could tell. I know he could tell. And he was looking at him. He's like, I don't know, Dad. And I was like, well, I didn't know what to do. Now I know why Leah kept him awake. If I could have just, there's always an if I, woulda, shoulda, could have. And, man, Caden never does this, but we gave each other 5. We gave each other knuckles like we always did. And then he kissed me on my left cheek. And he said, I love you, Dad. And I said, I love you too, son, so much too. Gave each other knuckles, and that was the last time I ever saw my child. He walked in that room, and he went to sleep in his sister's bed that night. And I woke up. I didn't want to go in there and wake him up. He didn't have to get work till 11, and I was going to church at 9:30, Hillside. I go to church, and I was meeting like 6 people. I met them. We even took a picture afterwards. And then my buddy Moses, who Caden went to school with, who was on the wrestling team, who did CrossFit with me on Sundays, because his dad asked him to, said, hey, I'm going to go to meet my parents over at Trinity. And I thought, well, Caden's going to work. So Trinity starts at 11:15 or something. So I'll just go. I'll go with you, Moses. I'll go with your family. So I go there. And there was that Cody Carnes song. And then we ended up playing that at Caden's funeral. But that was the song, like right in the middle of it, about 12:30. I remember asking him, like, hey, what's this song? And I was writing the words down. And she told me. And Moses' mom. And I don't know why that played a factor. I think it was because the way what the song is. And so just in the time that I did it and knowing that, I know, because I don't know really when he would have passed away, but it felt like it would have been right there. It felt like I could have saved him. And then I go home and I turn the corner and there's his car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to get fired. He's going to get fired. And I pull up, I go inside, I go to use the bathroom, and I'm still trying to zip up pants, walk, Caden, I'm yelling all the time, Caden, don't get up, nothing's happening. Hey, Caden, hey, listen, I open the door, Caden, and I just knew, I knew instantly, only because he was blue, and he had his arm under his pillow, he looked so peaceful, he's like, he'd just gone to sleep, he just put his arm under the pillow, he wouldn't have liked me to find it, he found his vape pen right there charging, and his phone. And so I instantly just, you don't ever know what, I just freaked out. I start ripping my clothes off and I'm running through the house and I'm saying, I'm about to stay with my mom at the time. I just gone through a breakup and I said, oh my God, he's dead. And I'm running through the house. I'm trying to jump through my pants. And she said, who, Heath, who? And I said, Caden's dead. She said, what? I said, oh my God. And I'm trying to call 911. I called him 3 times and I couldn't remember where I lived. I couldn't even remember the address. He was like, what's the emergency address? I'm like, and I could see the front door open. I'm like, dang it. And I just take off running to the front door as fast as I can. And I run back in there, and as I get my clothes off, and I don't know why to this day, why I thought about this. You will just do weird things, I guess, in those moments, because you'll do anything to just make that situation stop. And so I laid on top of him with my warm body, thinking if I warm him up, if I get the blood flowing again, that blood's going to go, and he's going to it's not over. We're still in the fight. We got this, man. And it's so surreal to see your child be born. I watched him get circumcised. I watched him get all his little pricks and pokes. I want his daddy to be there, and to see that just is devastating. It's just devastating. I always try to tell people about who doesn't have a child what it's like to love a child. It's not your own. You can get them real close to what that love's going to be like, but they'll never feel that love until they have their own child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same for a death. Like I could get you really close right now and probably think about that baby girl that loves those sticks. That's such awesome, And for a minute, you'd probably have a panic attack or anxiety, like loss of breath. Like okay, then okay, I could call her. Well, from that minute forward, that losing that breath, it stayed with me. Like I felt trapped in this bubble of can't breathe. I couldn't get out of this bubble of not being able to breathe all the time. It felt so claustrophobic. Like I was never going to get out of this world. Like it just felt so chaotic, and it made my mind, my ADD. Who knows if I have it or not, but I probably do. And it just would consume me. And I told him 2 weeks before, what do you want me to do, bury you? Because I don't want to, but I would if I had to. And so now I'm in this 2 weeks later, and I thought to myself, luckily it was my friend's funeral home, and I just asked him, I don't know why I felt this way. I said, hey Bart, can I clothe my child and put him in his casket? Because this is what I told him 2 weeks before, and this is why I feel this way. He said, Heath, I'll let you honor that. He said, there are some people that like to do that, but not too many, but I'll honor that for you. So I went with the guy, and I had done body removal one time for a place. So, after they had did all their stuff, he went to go to have an autopsy in Lubbock. They came back, and that was just the most painful, heartbreaking thing to just look at, to see your child like that and see how it happens. And, if you want to be brutally honest, I guess for the viewers that listen and watch, you go in, you've never seen these, and now you're looking at a scar that's down your child's belly where they take out their insides, and they don't just put them back in. They don't put them all back in. They just put them in a bag, plastic bag, and roll them up, put them back in there and sew you up. Take out your brain, and now they just sew you up. And so it's like, it was just so, and we get onto our children for their shoes being in the way, and we get onto them. We're so angry with them for these little bitty things. And then this happens, like him and his mom got in the argument. And then it's like, man, you've got, it's just like, I really wish people could just hear this and feel this enough to go, in the moments of despair and hurt and all that, just to go, okay, wait a second. I remember Heath's story. I need to take it easy, because I'm not promised the rest of the day, and neither is my child, and I don't know what tomorrow holds. I better not act this way. It's always my hope when I tell people that, because I just want them to realize they could be in this same boat, like where they just done realize that they're about to lose their child, and they just got on their child for shoes being out or something just dumb that they could have, that really it was their problem that they had, not the child.
Yeah.
So I clothed him, and I remember I picked him up with my buddy Tim, who worked at the place, and and the whole time I just picked him up. All I could say was, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that was the most difficult period of my entire life. And I bet you for the next almost a year, I would be walking. And at first it was over and over and over and over. I'd walk into the room, take a left, walk in the room, take a left, walk in the room, take a left, walk in the room, take a left. And it was just playing a repeat. And the more I tried not to think about that moment, walk in, take a left, walk in, take a left, and what I felt like, I guess that moment of like it just, I don't know. They say that a lot of times your long-term memory is associated to spikes in adrenaline. So, that was probably the biggest adrenaline spike I'd ever had in my life, And so, it just replayed over and over. And I would ask God all the time, please, and I didn't understand God at first. Remember, right when it first happened, I'm running down the street and I'm ripping my clothes off, and next thing I know, I'm realizing I'm halfway down my block in just my underwear. I had no clue. And I realized, but I'm yelling at that God in the clouds. I'm just like, I've followed you for the last 15 years. I can't believe you're going to be kidding me. This is my story. This is what, and I'm just having it out with God right there in the middle of the street. And just, and I realized, like, oh, I'm way over. I'm halfway down the block. What am I? I didn't even, So I take off running back down the street to get out of the block of my underwear. And I'm having this wrestling match with God, and like, so there goes my journey of really trying to figure God out. This whole God thing, this whole blind faith, this whole, you know, he saved his homeboy, Lazarus, but well, my child has to go, you know, but Lazarus gets to come out. Hey, Lazarus, come out, you know, and I'm like, I still wrestle with that, you know, and, but let me tell you, Trent, for the last 5 years, something has happened. It has changed my heart. It's changed my whole life. And I knew that I had two paths I could go down. I could go down this other path because I had just quit drinking a month and a half before. And I could take that path, or I could take this path. And if I take this path, this bad path, man, it's going to be a lot longer to get from here to here later, you know? And I thought, man, I wanted to take that path because now I have an excuse to use. I have an excuse. And I just kept fighting it. You know, I just kept fighting it. And because he was so proud of me that I told him I quit drinking. I told him I'm quitting. I'm never drinking again, Caden. I said it like that. I said, I'm never drinking again. I'm done, son. And that held me accountable. And I would say it out loud, you know, to other people. If I said it out loud to you, then it was like, if I did drink, you'd be like, hey, I thought you said you were never drinking. And I'm like, well, I'm stronger than that, you know. My pride kind of gets in the way sometimes, you know. And so
Yeah.
that held me accountable. So I quit drinking then, you know, except July 18th, 2020, and I never looked back. I still haven't looked back. And have I messed up in some other areas? You bet I have. I have, you know, and it's not to have an excuse of what happened to do that, but sometimes it feels that way. It just feels, you know, 6 months after Caden passed. So 6 weeks after Caden passed, one of my best friends passed away. 5 months after Caden passed, my mom gets into a horrible car wreck, and how she lived, I don't know. I mean, horrible car wreck. She was hospitalized. She was in the hospital. She wasn't even home for 6 months. So, and then 10 months after Caden passed, my dad passes away right as I start a new job being a teacher and a wrestling coach.
Whoa.
And so I'm 10 months in, and my best friend dies. Caden dies on my other great friend, Steve Nicholson, who was a boxing coach, here in Amarillo, my boxing coach. And Caden dies on his birthday. And Steve had just passed away like not long before. And now my best friend, now my mom's in a wreck, and now my dad, and I'm like, okay, that's it, God. Like I'm done. I'm done here. Like I'm done. Like I'm not following. I'm just sick of this. Like this God stuff isn't real, dude. I don't care. And it started to hit me. I started to think about Paul, Paul being, I think it was him that was crucified upside down, and wrote half the Bible, and how he's, he'd been imprisoned, and this whole walk wasn't to get good things, you know. And so we feel that way at times. Well, God's good and God's great, and well, He is great, but that can come with some price. That can come with some hurt. That doesn't mean our life's going to be great. And so now I realize that, and so I just started to. I don't know what it was. Still don't know what it is right now. Like, I just love more than I've ever loved in my life. Like, I grew up fighting and a little bit of anger, but still loving, but a little more anger probably, a little bit more.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I just love. I know that I'm not promised the rest of today. Like, I leave here, who knows? I may not, and unfortunately you may not, and so when I see people now, like, I just love on them. I just love them. I try to love them right there where they're at. I just give them the happiness, that good joy, that's something they leave with. It's like their spirit's a little more filled, and something that, and so that's just kind of how I've tried to be. And walking with this wrestling with God thing, man, this whole blind faith, just believing God, it still gets to me. And I can see why people who are unbelievers struggle with God. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You see someone that acts like an idiot who's a Christian, you go, golly. And you want me to be a Christian? You're over here just trying to tell me about God, and I love that, because I remember going to church one time, and this girl I was with said, everybody that's here at church, she said, she doesn't need to be here. And I thought, God, everybody that needs to be here is probably her. And I think to myself, that's me. Like, I'm that girl. Like I've been that person. There's so many Christians. We give this image of God as like this horrible. Like I don't want to be. If that's what a Christian is, I don't want to be one. Well, little do people know there are stages of being a Christian, in my opinion.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maturity. There's 100% maturity.
Man. Yeah,
and there are stages that you don't act like a Christian when you're a Christian.
Even at the upper level.
You can be there.
Absolutely.
Look, there's nobody that doesn't fall short.
Oh, man. And so that's what's hard to wrestle with God, this whole thing. Like, so After these last 5 years, let me tell you. So what had happened was I was wrestling with God about how he's done this and why did he do this? Why did he allow this? Why did Lazarus get to live, but my child has, and I still don't understand that. But Scott told me one time, we don't understand everything in the Bible. And if we focus on the things that we don't understand, we're just going to get lost, confused. But if we focus on the things that we do understand, things can start to turn around our life if we'll allow it, And so I try to focus on that. And so the Footprints in the Sand. Have you heard that poem?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's a good one. So it's talking about how I think my mom growing up, she had this saying in our house.
Yeah, we had it on our wall.
Did you?
Yeah, in my childhood. Yep.
Yeah. Did it have a sand dollar in it?
I think so. Yeah,
I
I think they.
Oh well, I did a sand dollar, and it had this story,
Yep.
and it had these two people walking down the beach, and it had one set of footprints, and it was, it's basically it's God talking to God, and he said, God, every time things are going good, and and I talk to you, I talk to you, and I look down and I'll see two sets of footprints, knowing that God's walking with me. He said, and all of a sudden, God, things go bad, and my life turns into chaos, and there I am looking for you, and I look down, and there's only one set of footprints, and why do you leave me every time things get hard, God, and he said, whoa, Heath, listen, that set of footprints, that's not you, that's me carrying you.
Yeah.
And when I read that, for some reason, when I read it again, and I read it again, and I read it again, it's like, it did something inside of me, that poem. I don't know what it is about that poem, but it made me realize, like, when Caden passed away, I thought that, I feel like God was like, okay, it's like, if God is all loving, here's what I heard God, like, this whole hearing God thing. There's a good voice and a bad voice. I always thought about those cartoons, when they were younger, you got a devil and you got an angel.
Yeah.
And the cartoon, and the angel will be telling them, hey, the roadrunner telling them, hey, go over here, do good things. The other one's going, no, don't do that. Go ahead and take the cookie, or, and you're like, no, don't do that. You know better than that. And that's what our head does. It's that wrestling match of the good and between the bad and the evil, the good and the bad. And which one are we going to pop? Are we going to pop that angel and listen to the devil? Or are we going to pop that devil and go, I'm going to listen to the angel? And so that's what it was for me. And so the more I wrestled, and I heard God, I felt like God was saying, Heath, I'm going to be right here with you when Caden passes. Now, son, you're going to think it's going to be me, and it's not me, Caden. Heath, I gave this world free will. I gave this world free will. That's why we all die. And free will meant that he ate the apple. And so it's just how it goes. And we're all going to go at some point. And Heath, when he dies, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to welcome your son. And this is what I felt like God was saying, like these just really goodness. And Heath, when he's gone, I need you to run to me. I need you to run as hard and fast as you can to me. Because I'm going to be right there, because those are going to be my footprints.
Yeah.
And so that's after I read that, all this started to play later on, not right away. It's has been a big wrestling match for me. And this is what I've kind of come up with, what I feel like is like, when bad things happen, like, we have a choice. We have a choice to try to listen to God, listen to the good voice, listen to that good voice. Am I going to follow it? Am I going to obey it? It's easy to hear the good voice, but am I going to obey it? And so, I slowly, little things, started trying to obey the good voice, and just love God and love people, love other people and all their wounds and all their hurts, as long as they don't focus on me and my wounds and my hurts. They're good, and so I feel like that's what happens. Like, we as people, as Christians, like, we're going to go through things, and we've got to try to listen to that good voice, and I feel like God is, when people die, God doesn't take them. And I'm so thankful Brian Mashburn told me this when Caden passed. He said, there's going to be people that are going to say things. And he said, Heath, I want to remind you of God's grace, first off, and about all the God's grace he's given you. And I said, okay, yeah. And he said, well, I want you to extend this same grace to others, because there's going to be people out there that are going to say things to you. He said, I've dealt with this since I'm a pastor. They're going to say things that are they mean well. They really do. They just don't know better. They've never lost a child. They don't know really what to say, but they're going to say something. And sometimes some of what these people are going to say is kind of really probably going to tick you off. So, okay, I know what he meant, but I'll figure that out. Right off the bat, man, it's like, Caden's in a better place. Hey, God wanted Caden home, but he brought Caden home. He brought, the people say that a lot. Caden, it was time for him to, God was ready for him. He brought him home. And there were little things like that that started to piss me off. Like I started to get just ticked. And I would try to extend the grace. Yeah, okay, yeah, just kind of, yeah. Okay, yeah. I brought him home. Yeah, Caden's in a better place. It's time I don't feel that way. We don't feel that way when we're here, right?
Right.
They need to be here with us. And I remember this one lady said that one more time. She said, I want to bring Caden. God was ready to bring Caden home. I just, do you think that God kills us to bring us back? You think he puts us through these torturous, rapes or something where they die and it's just to bring him home? I said, no, that's not who God is. God, he's loving. He we're in this world of full of evil and unfortunately, God, we want to say that God can just, put this hedge of protection over. No one's, that's not going to hurt us. You're not going to, but unfortunately, that's not the case. The case is that there are people out there that are tortured to death who are very good Christians who just walk, and they've had to go through some very heinous deaths. And there wasn't a hedge of protection around them. God's word maybe got carried on later because they were Christians and it touched more people to bring them to the kingdom, right? Do I fully understand all that? No, I do not. But I know that if I focus on that, then I'm not going to get anywhere too far. So I just try to do this blind faith thing that they talk about where you just blind faith, and I struggle with that right now is what I've been kind of struggling with, just blind faith. And so, I've really wrestled back and forth with this good and bad voice. And so I'm just at a place right now where I started and I was a wrestling coach and teacher the last 3 years. And I was at Emerald High, and then I went to PD, and it was a way that I got to give back. But working 70 hours a week and trying to study for
that's a lot.
A composite social studies test, which is Texas history, world history, U.S. history, government, economics, and then they also throw in some sociology and a little psychology in this test. 140 question test, you got to make 80% or better. Now, Texas history alone, there's so many questions you can ask. Better yet, world history, U.S. history, government. Who was the senator of Texas in 1892 or something like that? It was like Thornton, I remember this guy told me that and I thought, I don't know that. So if you just don't know that and study that, you're just not going to get that on the test, So, oh man, I struggled studying. I had just lost my child 10 months before when I started being a teacher, my dad had just passed away right as the year started. People don't know what you go through at night when you're going to sleep at night. They don't know my problems. I couldn't even do laundry. I could not get simple things done. Simple tasks were so difficult for me, and I would get so irritated. And to this day, I still am struggling, but I'm learning to stop and breathe and go, okay, God, I'm pissed off. Like I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with all this together. And so I'm getting better at that. And but it's been a wrestling match. It has not been easy. I just know that God did something to me. It's caused me to love, and losing a child is like no other. But also, there's a little boy out there, a little 5-year-old boy that just lost his little teddy bear, man. And to that little boy, that was like losing a child. That was like that's the deepest pain that little boy's ever going to go through right there at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So some people say, well, I've never lost a child, but I've lost my dad. It's not a child, but I did lose and I try to immediately stop that and just like, whoa, no. Obviously, that's your worst pain you've ever felt. So you don't know what losing a child. They say that's the worst, Well, for you, that's the worst pain. And so I never want to dumb down somebody just because I've lost my child and you lost your dad, because it's
pain.
It's pain.
It's pain.
So, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I started, I did 3 years. I was having a tough time passing my certification, obviously. I made a 67 the first time I took the test. Studied for 8 weeks. I didn't even take the test the first year. Second year I took the test and made a 67, and then I studied for 8 weeks, made a 70. And I thought, man, I studied so I just could not keep working 70 hours a week working. I'm coaching wrestling all day. The first year I coached football, then wrestling. I went straight from football to wrestling. Let me tell you, those football coaches, they put in some hours.
Yeah, they do.
I get there at
Traveling and
6:30 in the morning, for these kids, and then film. You got to go film at 6:30 in the morning. Then you got to go to school, start teaching. I'm waking up at 5 in the morning, meeting Ziggy Hood at the gym. Just barely could even walk back to school because Ziggy killing me in the morning, And Ziggy Hood was a professional football player, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in Amarillo. He's from Amarillo, and actually went to the Super Bowl, and they lost. But Ziggy's a go getter. He's tough. And then later, I start powerlifting. I start lifting weights when Caden passed away, and I lifted 5:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the afternoon. I was able to take off work. I worked at Amarillo National Bank, and I was so blessed to work there. Like I really was. That is the best bank to work for. It's the best. I mean, the environment, the people, but more importantly, I went to school with all of them, the Wares that own it, and the triplets. But Pat Ware and I have been, man, it's just been my boy. It's just been my boy. Like I love the dude. I just love him. And dude, they let me be off work for 3 months. They paid me for 3 months. I couldn't have gone to work anyway. I wouldn't have gone to work. I'd just been broke, I guess. But they paid me to be off, which I needed that time. I needed that. Like I didn't do the first 2 months, man. I didn't leave my room. I started sleeping sideways in my bed for some reason. I don't know why. I think it felt like it was a different place. It felt like it was putting me in a different, I don't know. I just slept sideways on the bed, and I door dashed everything. I didn't want to go out in public. I felt like there was just light bulb above me that said, "Oh, you're sunbag. You're done. Hey, I'm so sorry. Hey, I'm so sorry. Hey, I'm so." And I'm just like, "Oh God, I couldn't keep doing it." It's just, I mean, I'd crying already as much as I could not even talk about it without crying. And I've gotten to now where I'm just now recently to where I can kind of talk about it, and I can get to where I'm not going to cry. I can stop and and I know it's okay to cry, like my mom said, but man, you get cried out, And so anyway, I couldn't be a teacher. So now I just started a new business. 16 months ago, I decided to step out on my own. Someone said, if you don't get your certification, you're not gonna be able to make it. So I just, and I was a wrestling coach, and I love wrestling. I love being a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Being a teacher, I like being a teacher, but not as much as being the wrestling coach. And so I decided I detailed cars when I was younger, and I thought, well, you know what, let's just be honest here. I was negative $600 on my account. And at the end of the summer, I thought, what am I going to do? I could detail cars. I could make money. I know how to detail. I could at least do that for now. So I started looking at like power washing machines, and then I found this one. This guy said, "You want hot water? You want to make a career out of this?" I'm like, "Well, if I'm going to buy one." Yeah. He said, "Well, you're going to want hot water. So you're going to want a heater. Trust me, you're going to get across a piece of gum, and you're not going to be able to get it out with cold water." He said, "Take you off." So I looked to get a loan, and lo and behold, my buddy Pat Ware, I called him, thank God, and said, "Hey, what's it take to get a business loan?" And he said, "What are you looking to do, Dodgen?" And I told him, he said, "Hey, we'll give you this amount of loan. We'll give you this much extra for kind of up and going costs." And I'm like, and that was that day. I'm negative $600. Now I've got, at least a little bit of money. I got this bill I need to pay. It was like, oh, it's such a relief. It was like, okay. I drive to New Mexico. I get this power washer. I come back not knowing even how I'm going to start it. And my buddy says, "Hey, you know all those videos you make working out? Every time you do a job," he said, make a video and post it. Just every time do it. Just start coming up with your own little deal at the beginning." And so that's what I did. Hey, Heath Dodgen here, West Texas Mobile Power Wash, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, doing those things, but I just started doing it, walking right into it. And my buddy one time told me, just walk right into it, see what God does. So I use that all the time. So I just walk right into it, see what God does. And so I started making these videos, and wrestling coach called me from Amarillo, like David Carino, said, "Hey, Dodge, you know how to wash a fence?" Never washed a fence. Heck yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah. David, I'm sorry, bro. No, it was an awesome opportunity. It was an awesome opportunity. I needed that opportunity. And so I'm on YouTube that night. I'm on YouTube, everything to wash fence. How you going to make the fence look better, right? I'm just researching. So I go to his house. I get some stuff at Home Depot. Wasn't working like I wanted it to, like some of the videos. Go back that night, and I found some stuff that was amazing. I'm like, I'm ordering it. So order it right then. Called David. Well, he's got a 1,600 square foot fence now that I realize what I charge for, $1 a square foot. Back then, I think I could charge him like $350.
Yeah.
So now I'm already in the whole $50 on gas, and then I've got all the chemical that I bought from Home Depot. Now I bought this new stuff, and so I'm not even going to break even, And I called David. I say, "Hey, man, listen, I know I told you 350. Could we do like 450? Maybe make 100. I mean, So I put this chemical on the fence, and it's beautiful. It turned out great. And then I started detailing cars, and just for the last 16 months, I posted the videos, and I'm telling you, it has been the biggest blessing. Like maybe it's because I know many people, but I've done so many people that I don't even know. And I've detailed cars. I do semi trucks, trailers. I do parking lots. I do residential homes. I do.
Oh, I
commercial
follow
buildings.
you. I mean, I watch all sorts. You do all sorts of jobs.
Man, I have been so blessed. Like, I've had to learn so many things. And then now all of a sudden my machine breaks down and I'm like, I got an Albuquerque and there's only one place in Amarillo and they charge quite a bit of money to fix your stuff. And I'm like, man, I can't pay that every time this thing goes down. I got to start learning how to work on this thing. And so now I know how to work on the pumps and the heater and all the stuff. It's really cool. And so then I got this really big job last year that was the biggest blessing ever. And I bought a brand new machine, paid it cash for it.
Oh, wow.
Oh man. And it's an 8-gallon per minute. It's just, this machine's awesome. I could go on and on about this. The deal is I found something else that I love to do. I loved coaching wrestling. I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what, I was really hurt. And get this, 2 weeks after I buy my machine, right, I get a call from Hereford ISD that asked me to be the head wrestling. And I'm like, excuse me? He said, Heath, we wouldn't want anybody else. We know that there's, our guy left, and we know that you just, left PD. Listen, you don't need your certification right now either. You can just wait till the end. I'm like, I could have, and I'm like, oh my, and it's a Thursday, and I'm like, oh my gosh. He said, I've already talked to the superintendent. Listen, they're ready to rock. We just need you to come talk, and I said, so you want me to be the head coach? He said, yeah, we want you to be the head coach. Like that's what we were coming in to talk. And I said, wow. I said, you've got to be kidding. I mean, I love wrestling. I love wrestling. Love it.
Yeah.
To be your head wrestling coach, like, and even in Hereford, like, what an honor that they called to ask me. And so I said, it was a Thursday. I said, man, can I please have over the weekend till Monday to think about this? Let me wrestle through this with God. I really need some time. I said, because I just started my power wash company. I just paid all this money for the machine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So all weekend, I even got out in my truck and went to, this park far away by myself and just really closed my eyes and just started birds. Try to listen to that good voice about what it was I needed. And I kept hearing that good voice. Got you in this place for a reason. Got you here for continue on with it. Okay. What I'm going to do. I can't believe I'm giving up a head. I went to
That's
school.
your dream. Yeah,
that's
your
my dream
job, man.
So years ago, Coach Cobb, my wrestling coach, I used to go to high school, kept wrestling. He said, Dodger, you got to become a wrestling coach. So I was like, and I even said after my second professional MMA fight, I was watching it recently. And at the end of the fight, they asked me, hey, what do you want to do? You want to come back and fight for the belt? And I even said right then, I don't know. Let me think about this. I said, my dream is to be a head wrestling coach, high school wrestling coach. I even said it. And I was like, wow, I forgot I said that. And it was, at one point, it was my dream to be a high school wrestling. And here I was. And so now I had the opportunity. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I had to call him Monday morning and tell him, hey, I truly appreciate the offer. Like, I'm so humbled and honored and all the words. And I'm going to stick to where I'm at right now. I'm going to stick to this journey. Just going to see what happens, see what God does. And I tell you what, my first year in it, last year it was hard. I've learned a lot, and it was a blessing financially. It was a blessing. It's been difficult though. I still can't get laundry done. I recently bought a house, and that whole thing right there was just kind of laid in my lap. It's God's grace. I didn't earn it, and I didn't deserve it. I tell you that right now. People will tell you all the time, "No, you deserve it. You're a hard worker. You deserve that." Well, they don't see behind closed doors. They don't see my struggles. They don't see the sin that I have, or and that is difficult. That is difficult for us all to admit. It is. Mm-hmm. It is. It's difficult to admit our sin. It's difficult to admit our wrongdoings. Because why? Because it exposes us to all these people out there. And what happens? Well, you're judged. All these people want to start talking about you. And oh, look what he did. Look what he did. And what they don't realize is they've got 3 fingers pointing back at them. And there's a reason for that. Every time I'm talking about somebody else and I'm saying, well, you should do this. And you need to, well, look at him. Look at this guy over here. Man, Heath, I need to think about how I'm acting, how I'm reacting, how I'm loving. Not about what this person, who cares about what this person's doing? I need to worry about Heath Dodgen. 75% of me needs to worry about me, not them. And so I've realized, like, when I start to hear those things, people talking smack, and I just realize, hey, whoa, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you for a reason. So, and sometimes I don't even say that, just let them be, because I'm focused on me, man. I'm just focused on how I'm going to act and react and love. And so this whole last 5 years has really, Caden death has caused me to grow and to fail and to grow in different ways. And it has changed my life and who I am. And,
I love how raw and how, I've just sat here because I didn't know 95% of that. And man, it is an inspiration. And really, it's the raw part of we are walking in this world, and we're all walking through trying to continue faith. Once you have faith in Jesus, you want to keep your faith in Jesus, because the world's trying to take it all the time, and the enemy and life and the questions and why isn't it 1,000 different questions? Why isn't it easier? Why did that person? Why is this? Why about me? What about them? That situation doesn't look fair. That doesn't look right.
Yeah.
This is so many things that we point to, and we struggle. And that's the thing, is it's okay. First of all, everybody sins. I don't care who you are. You're still battling sin if you're alive, and you're still failing. Yeah. There are times you fail. I don't care who you are. That is the truth of it. And so the more that I think we keep humility, and I think one of the things that I loved about the story that's helped me in my life personally, that you did over and over, and it was get around good people and confess your sins one to another. And when we say that, it's not so you can be forgiven. The freedom you get in being able to express to your small group of people that you can trust, that you're not telling everybody, all these details. But you can recover, and you feel better when somebody else knows you're not carrying it in the darkness alone. And that is the truth. And you've used that multiple times, and anybody listening needs to find a small group of people that are Christians. You're not trying to just tell anybody, but somebody that wants to be more like Jesus, that is going to encourage you and also share that they struggle. Not have this mask on like they got it figured out, because nobody's got it figured out. There's nobody on earth that has it all figured out and they're just walking through it perfectly. That's not true. We're all struggling through it. We're all struggling through it in different ways, and we can encourage each other to stay in the fight. Because here's the thing. You said it best earlier. This is not our reward. We are not on earth to receive this big reward. That is not the goal. If you look at the 12 disciples, and you were quoting Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, and dude, he's shipwrecked, and he's beaten, and he's rejected, and he's hungry, and he's thirsty, and he's all these things. He's given the death penalty 40 lashes minus 1. That's the death penalty was 40, and he would take it multiple times. That's not a great life. 11 out of the 12 disciples that were following Jesus, that were the ones who are carrying the story around, they were martyred. They were killed because they believed, because they professed that they believed in Jesus. But there's something in me and you that we also know we walk with God. And it might not be what other people might think is perfect. But if you don't think it's not real, I know God's real. You can't convince me different. I know God's good. I know He has good plans for us. I know it's going to prosper us and not to harm us and hope for a future. That doesn't mean I think that it's all happening on this earth. I do believe that in the next world, in Revelation 21, where it says no more sickness, no more death, no more sadness, He's going to wipe every tear away from our eyes, because all these things have passed away. And then it talks about a streets of gold, and it talks about a wall 72 yards tall, and it's ornate with all these precious stones. We're literally going to walk up into the kingdom of God on more value than all the world's wealth combined. This whole thing is paved in gold. The road is worth more than this whole world. And He does paint a picture for us that we're not going through this like that. It's not going to be awesome, because this is a Trent statement. That was biblical. This is a Trent opinion. Trent opinion is Why do we go through this difficulty and these things that break us? Because I don't know very many people that some part of life hasn't broke you.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of us. And they're hurt in different ways, and it takes different things, and nothing's this equal or any of that. But man, I tell you what, we all feel broken at some point. And I can't help but think that in 1,000 years, in 10,000, in 1,000,000 years, in 1,000,000,000 years, which we can't even fathom being alive in a new body that doesn't hurt, that has perfect, like we're in perfection, we're in perfect relationships. There's no more of these problems. You know, maybe it was like Satan who rebelled against God, and he had it perfect, and he was the praise and worship leader in heaven, and he wanted the glory for himself. We would know, hey, dude, I've been where God wasn't present and you didn't see him, and things were not done all according to his way. And you know, that broke every one of us. That sucked. We're not rebelling against God ever, not forever. And maybe our gift is to live in this eternal place where we always have that pain to look back and see. Because did you know that the day we see the other side, the day we leave this earth and we wake up in heaven and we see God in his presence and we see him in his glory and his splendor, and we see his power and when he speaks and how awesome it is, and we feel this love that we've never felt, we can never go back. We can never go back to this time in life where we didn't know him and we still chose him. We're still finding the goodness in this mess. We can still see his goodness because it shines through, and we pick him. We pick him. That brings him glory. That brings him happiness. The fact we can endure these things because we have hope. That's the blind faith. We're not sitting here holding on to these things because we don't think it ends better. I'm not holding on to all this because I think it's going to continue to go like this earth. No, bro.
Yeah.
I'm hoping no.
Yeah, we're hoping for,
We're hoping for heaven where it is different, where it is perfect, where we do get a reward, where all of it does make sense, where all of our questions are answered.
Where we get to see our loved ones, that we want to see. And I struggle with, this is where I struggle. So when I saw Caden gone, I remember this guy said, when I saw my brother gone, I could see his spirit above him. I could like see his spirit. And I said, and I couldn't, and I probably was rude, but I said, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding me. So you looked up, because I didn't see his spirit. I didn't see anything. I saw nothing. I saw this lifeless body, and I immediately thought, and I remember at the moment, I thought, Caden, I probably yelled it, Caden, are you there? Like, are you there? Like, are you in heaven? I mean, it wasn't a doubt that he wasn't going to go to heaven, but my second guessing started to boil up, and it's like, wait a second, like, do we really? So that's where I've had to wrestle these last 5 years. Do I really? And do I still believe? I feel like sometimes we just go out there and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to heaven. Oh yeah, blind faith. Yeah, we're going to heaven. Yeah." But that person that's saying that, their second question, like me, the only difference is that I speak it out loud. But a lot of us are like, "Is this real? Like, really?" Like, Lazarus come out, and all of a sudden Lazarus comes out. Like, come on, dude, that sounds so bogus. And then this guy's in a whale and spit out 3 days later. Come on, man. Well, again, I don't know the answers, and I struggle with those. But this guy put it to this way, me one time, and this helped me and may help others. But he said, Heath, you know that heaven's going to be something that it's unfathomable. Like you said, we can't even we can't. He said, do you know how radio waves work? And I said, no. He said, well, you know that there's these radio waves through the air, and they go through. You can't smell them, you can't taste them, you can't see them, you can't hear them. He said, but what's really cool is that we take these metal things. Somehow we get these waves out of the sky, and they come in, and then they put them back out for people long ways away to hear, and you can hear it, and it's weird. He said, what if heaven is like radio waves? What if it's like microwaves? Like, it's so unfathomable for you to even think about, like, what if that's what heaven is like? Because you just can't fathom it. What if heaven's like micro, like it's you get, all of a sudden you die. Because I said, well, how does our spirit, like we die and there's a spirit? I said, come on, dude. Like that sounds so far fetched, but I know that when I love people, I'll try to be more like Jesus. And I'll never be 100% like you say. That's why we're all failures. I asked my buddy one time, if we're trying to be more like Jesus, well, how close can I get? I'll never be 100%, but what percent can I get to? And then if I get to that percent, am I going to be finally happy enough that I'm, more like Jesus? And so is this always going to cause me to fail because I know I'll never be 100%? But I know that when I act more like Jesus, I know that when I love people and all their wounds and all their hurts, I know that when I take calmness in my moments of despair and hurt and anger, that it's doing something. And I remember Cole Stanley, who is the mayor of Amarillo right now, who's our good friend, told me one time, he said, he said, how do you say it? He said, there's a lot, how do you say it? I'm wrestling right now. Dang it, I just left me. I can't think of it right now. My mind just going a million miles an hour again. But
I don't want to point out one
Yeah.
quick story. You take those 12 disciples, but 11 of them are getting martyred. If they had watched Jesus, they had been with him, they had watched these miracles. Guy grows an arm back.
yeah,
Lazarus comes out of the dead. They feed 5,000 people. They're handing buckets of food out. It was a lot of work. You don't even realize the miracle of the 5,000. They were dead, tired, exhausted from lifting baskets all day long that just kept coming, and they had to get to 5,000 people. You don't even think of that. They lived through these things. Now, if it wasn't true that they watched Jesus die, and then they sit with him face to face and talk to him again, would they have the courage to get martyred because they believe it? No chance. You don't die for a lie. Nobody would die for a lie. You would only believe enough to the point of death if you knew death can't get me. Death can't get me.
Oh yeah, then
I'm gonna get. He was raised. I saw Jesus after. That isn't the end. I would be willing to die knowing that I just watched Jesus die and be alive again and go, oh, the death doesn't get me. Then I would have the courage to go through it. And I sure wouldn't do it if I hadn't seen it. And he had died and buried him and I never saw Jesus. Would I be willing to be brutally tortured and die for a lie? You wouldn't. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
That hit me what Cole said. He said, I'm glad you just mentioned that's awesome. Perfect. He said, okay, let's just say that the Bible was, let's just say all this was, okay? But it caused you to have more peace, caused you to be a better person while here on earth. And it did these things. Now, because it did these things, does that make you kind of think like there's something out there, something good. And either you can choose to follow it and choose to be this, or you can just choose not to, It says they both take the same energy. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, you're right. Like if I do, I want to be loved. And so, if all this wasn't real and it just caused me to act this way and feel more peace at night when I lay my head down at night, I know the older I'm getting right now, peace is everything. Because when I lay my head down at night and chaos is going around, I got this going on, I got that, and it's just overwhelming. But when I have peace, knowing that God is in control, and I've been living by this lately, I've been living by do not worry.
Yeah.
Does God, the birds, they don't store and reap in barns. Are you not more important than the birds?
Yeah.
And so, and I have been thinking about that nonstop lately. I don't know why. That's the one that's been with me. And I just know that to not worry, because I know that, because again, at the very end of it, it says, what does it say? Tomorrow has its worries of its own. Just worry about today. Stay on today. Yeah, we can't worry about yesterday. Yesterday is gone. Today we have our problems today. And tomorrow will have its own problems, and we'll worry about the problems tomorrow, because today we're not promised us today. So let's just worry about the problems we have today. And so, because when I can get real easily ahead of myself and start to worry really, really bad. I'm a worry wart. And lately I've learned to just know, like, I can't pay this bill, or I got this. I'm like, oh, Heath, don't worry, son. Do I not have you? Got you. I've got people all around you. I've got surrounded. And next thing you know, it's like, I could say one thing to many people, and it's like, Heath, I got you. Like I told somebody the other day, I said, man, I'm struggling with my bills, and immediately he did. And I didn't say this to get this response, but this is what he said. He said, Heath, I'll loan you some money, man. I got you. Don't even sweat it, bro. I got you, and just pay me that, just when you can. And I was like, luckily I didn't need it, but I thought, man, that's God.
Yeah.
That's God's people. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, we always try to have each other's back, and we love each other, and even the people that aren't Christians. And I think that's why I struggle so bad with the people that struggle with this. I'm never believing. It takes the same amount of energy to not believe as it does. So I choose to believe, and they can choose their other direction. I'm focused on me, and I choosing to just think that one day I want to see my Mama Ray. One day I want to see my tater bug, man. I can't wait. And I'm hoping that it's just like the microwaves, and I get to just float through the microwaves, and I'll get to see tater bug in no time. As soon as I'm gone, And I used to fear death. I used to just like, oh, I gotta stay alive. I gotta watch my step. Now I have no fear, no fear. It's like I just have. It's completely has gone, And I hate to say it, but at times I'm like, can I go?
Yeah.
I'm ready. And just because of the struggles we have here on earth, so it caused me to, So again, I wake
And he's
up.
got a mission for you, and you're fulfilling it, sharing today. Like, man, you encouraging people. You encourage me. Like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to hear, but it's harder to have lived what you've lived than to hear. Like, I can just, and man, you're in here fighting, and you're bringing Jesus glory. You're saying, I still trust you. You're still worthy. You still bring me more peace than the world.
Yeah.
And that is the truth of like, if he wasn't real, we wouldn't feel the peace.
Man.
If he wasn't real, man, it wouldn't make sense to show love to people.
Yeah.
There's no other religion or anybody that says, which we know showing love to people is how you win people. You don't browbeat them. You don't tell them how wrong they are. That doesn't win people.
No.
What wins people is loving people. And the only religion that tells you is Christianity. Love your neighbor. Love your enemy. Bless them.
Yeah.
Because that is what really, honestly, is the kingdom of God. That's how we know it's real, because it's so anti-human to bless your enemy. That is not you have to be, you have to
just
believe.
Go to my wife and you want me to bless you and tell you God I forgive him? You got to be kidding me.
It only makes sense in the context that God can bring it about to good. So, hey, at the end of it.
Hey, but I love there's one thing that you inspired me years ago you did, and I still don't know how you did it or what you did, but you went 40 days without eating.
Yeah.
And I think you drank some water.
I drank water, yeah.
And I'll still remember the first meal you ate. I think it was a steak. You said you went and had a steak dinner. Is that right?
Well, I had broth the first few times, but then I think I went to
too early
Hoagie's.
Oh,
I wanted the chili. I wanted a cheese pizza and a Philly steak and cheese.
Oh, that's what it was.
That was the two. Philly steak and cheese.
I'll never forget. I thought, man, Cole said, hey, he's not telling nobody, but hey, he hadn't eaten. It was at the time. It was like 2 weeks, and I remember I drove by the I-40 or I-27 over here, and you have this mobile home unit place that you own, and I saw you out there working, and I thought, well, he's working. And then, of course, towards the end, I think it was kind of more like
no. The last week, I just laid around. And
that was amazing. That always inspired me. You've done things like that I've looked up to. Your ability to talk to people and strength to go out and make money and become something and be a good dad and a husband. Like, man, I commend you on that, and I thank you for this opportunity. And you know that I love you, brother.
Well, I love you, and man, I got plenty to share on my story of failing at all these things as well, and man, we're all struggling through it, and man, good to have you on the show. To end it, we'll pray for each other. Anything particular that you want prayer for, I'll go first. I want you to pray like, man, sometimes I get discouraged about my ministry, or am I making a difference? And you want to keep trying. I want to bring Jesus glory and honor. And it's hard to gauge if you are or not, because God does it all. He doesn't need anything. But man, you want people to know, and you want people to get the reward, like the heaven forever. Like I do want that for people.
I know you.
So man, I want prayer for that.
Yeah.
What else do you need anything?
For me, it's just, I've got some inner struggles that I've been struggling with, that I'm just right there at the edge of jumping. I'm at the edge of the cliff of just ready to jump off the cliff and let go of some things that I've been kind of holding on to. And I think right now publicly, I don't want to expose those, but I feel like just some demons, just a couple demons right now that I'm facing. I feel like a lot of area of my life is really going good, and I feel like there's these little bitty things right now that are holding me back from all those other, So,
Man, I can do it.
I'm right there ready to jump. So,
You want to go first or last?
let me go first.
All right.
Oh, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for this moment. God, you have set this motion years ago. And God, as I listen to my great friend Trent here talk about how he's just ready for these to see an impact. He just really wants this impact, God. I feel like, God, I just want you to allow him to just kind of let that area go. Like just that it does, like he's making the change and to want to see it and know that these people are going to go and that's that struggle of us holding on, God. And I feel like, God, that you just, whatever your will is on that, but just allow Trent to be more like your son and just be more like Jesus and not worry that it's who's impacting or what it's not, because in the end, we can't see and we don't know and we can't tell. But so to worry about those things again, it's just do not worry and allow him to just know today I'm going to be like Jesus no matter what I change. If I do, I'm not going to impact and how it's going to be, or man, I hope that I change this person's life. Just let him be more like your son and continue on with this journey. What a great thing that you have placed into his heart to do for your ministry, for so many reasons that we sometimes just can't even see, God. And Trent has been a great asset to our community, to me as a friend, and to many others. Lord, I know he's had struggles. He's also overcome some great things. He's comes from a good background, and God, he is touching. He's touched mine, and so there's one part. And Lord, I just love you. Lord, I struggle with you daily. You and I have some great wrestling matches, but God, I just ask that you also just allow me to be more like Jesus every day. God, just give me what it is to be more like your son. I just think.
Oh, yes, Jesus. Amen. Lord, we just love you. We lift you up, Lord. You deserve all the glory and honor. And Lord, I'm grateful for my brother Heath Dodgen. And Lord, my heart breaks as I hear of all of his loss and all of the tough times. And Lord, I just want to speak over him. It says whoever's lost a father and a son, or the things on earth, that Lord, that you will restore on earth, but Lord, that we will get them also in the life to come. And so, Lord, whatever he's dealing with right now, Lord, we speak over him the blood of Jesus, Lord, that he wins, that Lord, that he will allow you to fight for him. He will accept your love and grace. And Lord, that you will fend off the enemy, that they will not be able to overcome him in any way, shape, or form. Whatever it is, Lord, for him to be more like Jesus, that he needs to let go, that he needs to move, whatever it is in his life, Lord, that you're calling him to, he will be successful at it. We speak it over him, Lord, and we pray for you to give him the strength to do it, Lord. He has the passion of 10 men to chase after you, Lord, and use him mightily in his testimony, Lord, because God, you are real. And we're grateful for you, and we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Let's go, baby.
Hey.